Please join me for the invocation. O God, our Heavenly Commander-in-Chief, as we gather here to celebrate the U.S. Army's proud and decorated heritage of defending our country and standing for what is right since before we've been a nation, we thank you for empowering us as an organization that endures conflict in order to achieve peace, that promotes honor and courage in the face of oppression and terror, and that never leaves a fallen comrade but nurtures him or her towards restoration in body, mind, and spirit. We ask you, Lord, to give inspiration, strength, resilience, and protection to all soldiers as they live out the warrior ethos night and day in our ongoing operations around the world, as well as to the families that faithfully stand behind them. Honor them for their sacrifices, and especially honor the memory of our fellow soldiers who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. Lord, may all these same blessings fall on those in our sister services and the civilian patriots who stand beside us in the cause of freedom and the protection of the enduring values embodied in the fabric of our nation. We pray this in the name of the one who helps us not only to be Army strong, but spiritually strong. Amen.
Welcome to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center's celebration of the United States Army's 242nd birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, the Director, Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, Colonel Michael S. Heimel.
Hey, thanks everybody. Please take your seats. Band folks in the back, there's a couple of seats up front. Come on up and fill them in. So welcome. Next week marks the 242nd birthday of the United States Army. Contrary to popular belief, myself and Chaplain O'Grady were not original founding members of the Army 242 years ago, though Dr. Fitzpatrick may have been in the back, right? Colonel retired Tom Fitzpatrick. I want to thank the Color Guard. Great job. But I really want to thank the Army Band for coming up and supporting this event. You guys have come up a couple of times in my tenure as the director, and you always add such wonderful pomp to these events, and reminds us of the importance of military music in our traditions. It's my pleasure today to introduce our guest speaker. But before he speaks, I want to tell you that we're going to do things a little differently today. You're going to get to witness what we call an Army flag ceremony. These aren't done very often anymore. Back when Sergeant Major Luciano and I were young kids, we probably saw these a lot more. A couple of years ago, I was at Fort Bliss, Texas, one of the garden spots of the Army where Sergeant Major Luciano and I have both been stationed. And the garrison commander reinvigorated this ceremony. And it's a powerful reminder of the service, not only of our Army, but of our armed forces, and more importantly, the men and women who wear the uniform today, who have worn the uniform in the past, and the sacrifice that those who will wear the uniform in the future make. And to be able to do that here at Walter Reed, a sacred place where we get to care for our nation's most severely wounded service members, regardless of what uniform they wear, it's going to be a special event. For the sailors and the retired Navy folks, sorry about Reveille. We only do that twice a year. It'll be fine, right? I found it interesting. The Army starts its day usually at 0630 with Reveille and a division song, and then we go for a run. The Navy starts the day at 0800 with the national anthem, and I'm told the Air Force starts their day usually about 1300 with a tea time, though that is not true. Airmen, we love you. Thank you for being here with us. So, on to our guest speaker. Command Sergeant Major Robert Luciano serves as the Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Director of the Defense Health Agency, the first Army Senior Non-Commissioned Officer to hold that position. He and I, our paths have crossed an awful lot, I think, over the last 10 to 15 years at various assignments where he's either worked for good friends of mine or for bosses of mine. He's had a great career. He has had 2 combat deployments in Iraq, and he has served in some of the garden spots of the United States Army: Fort Polk, Louisiana, Fort Meade, Maryland, Fort Bliss, Texas. But he's also been rewarded with some great assignments as the Command Sergeant Major for Regional Health Command Pacific at the time in Hawaii, Miesau, Germany with the 212th Combat Support Hospital, and finally back in our nation's capital. And so I want to thank you, Sergeant Major, for coming and speaking to us today, but also for your continued support, not just of what I've done personally of my career, but of soldiers everywhere and of the team here, the joint team at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center.
Good morning. Thank you, sir. I'd like to thank Colonel Heimel and CMC Willis for the invitation and the opportunity to come speak to you here today. I'd like to also echo your comments, sir, about the chaplain, the color guard, and the band. You had to touch a class to every ceremony we do. Cool. So, good morning, and it's a great day to be a soldier. All right, fellow soldiers in this formation, happy birthday. And thank you for allowing me to share this 242nd Army birthday with you. Although I must note, we're a week early, and I talked to CMC about that, and he said, Sergeant Major, we're keeping with other Army traditions. And I asked him, how's that, Chief? He said, hurry up and wait. So I said, hooah. So on that, everybody in formation, please go to at ease. We're gonna wait. Not for a week. I had to get that out because I know one soldier was about to have a what the heck moment there and something was going to pop and snap for sure. But anyways, as I said, looking back in our history, we've always been early. The founding of the Army came before the Declaration of Independence. Said another way, we had an Army before we had a nation. If you look back also, it tells you something about how important the Army has been to this nation. Our Army's been there for every important moment, from the founding of the nation to the current day. You look at our Army, though, we've gone from an Army that marched with a single-shot rifle around some of what now is the United States to an Army that can put 1,000 paratroopers in aircraft, land them on your doorstep, and they're as lethal as can be. Or with the help of the Navy and the Air Force, we'll put 1,000 tanks in your backyard, and they'll put steel on target so far away, you're out of range to fire back. That's an Army. We used to be the biggest and the baddest Army on the face of this planet. Now, we're a lean, mean fighting machine. We're just the baddest Army on this planet. No Army yet has endured what we've done. No Army. And our battle streamers, which will be talked about later, they'll tell some of the story. But soldiers are universal. They adapt, they improvise, and they overcome. And I proudly served in harm's way with many of them. There's a special soldier in this Army, though, for me, and that's the Army medic. Nearly 34 years now I've been an Army medic, and I've served alongside of Army medics the entire time, along with infantry. The Congress established the Hospital Department 27 July 1775. That was a year before 4 July 1776 when we established a nation. So when the nation was born, that Army medic was there. He was ready to fight, and he was ready to take care of his wounded warrior. Soldiers were with General Washington, General Pershing, General Eisenhower, General Powell, General Petraeus. 242 years we've been there, every step of the way. From Valley Forge to Baghdad, Balad, and beyond. Since our establishment, we were there when the soldier went into combat. He went into harm's way. We were there when he got injured. We took care of him. We evacuated him. And we're here when he comes home to take care of him again. I'm proud of our role as an Army for this nation. I'm proud to be a soldier, and I'm proud to work with the men and women of this country all around the globe, protecting this country and the ideals of it, representing our nation, our Army, and our values. Men and women standing up and doing what is right, being professionals with integrity and respect for one another. As a soldier standing here today, You've earned the right to look sharp, stand tall, and be proud. A special note, though, Army medicine, Army soldiers, we worked with a larger formation, the Joint Force, more frequently lately. As with this formation here at Walter Reed, we work closely with the Army formations, Navy formations, Air Force formations, and coalition formations. They've made us better. They've enhanced our esprit de corps, and we've got the highest survival rate in the history of warfare. Along the way, we've learned a lot, and it's made medicine stronger and better around the globe. With that, it's been a privilege to have this early birthday with you. It's kind of like opening your Christmas presents on Christmas Eve versus having to wait for Christmas. Soldiers, happy birthday. Army strong, one team, and we are skilled and resolute. Hoa.
Thank you, Command Sergeant Major Luciano. The United States Army's history is displayed in its colors, its lineage, campaigns, and commendations. This flag has been used by the United States Army for 242 years to signal and rally its troops. For soldiers, it is a proud symbol of the importance of Army history. The story of its campaign streamers is intricate and delicate, involving a great multitude of the Army's most prominent leaders. It has traveled around the world and has been present on every front for each of its heroic battles. It has withstood the test of time and serves as a beacon representing the fighting spirit of the warrior, present and past. President Dwight D. Eisenhower issued an executive order establishing the Army flag, which was unfurled 14 June 1956 during the 181st birthday celebration at Independence Hall, Pennsylvania, the birthplace of the United States Army. The flag of white silk bears a replica of the official seal of the Department of the Army in ultramarine blue. A scarlet scroll inscribed "The United States Army" in white is centered between the device and the ultramarine blue numerals, 1775, denoting the year the Army was founded by action of the Continental Congress, 14 June 1775, and bears 189 streamers representing the Army's campaigns since its inception. This morning we will honor the Army flag by recounting the rich and glorious history of our Army for the past 242 years. These streamers are a reflection of our nation's will to preserve freedom no matter the cost. Let us not forget the men and women who made the supreme sacrifice to create this great heritage as we recount their legacy. Participating in today's ceremony are soldiers proudly representing Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, the Defense Health Agency, and the United States Army. It was early in April 1775 when the word went out, "Awake, awake, the British are coming." Captain John Parker said to his men, "Stand your ground. Don't fire unless fired upon, but if they want war, let it begin here." It was the shot heard around the world. Over the next years, the Army fought at Lexington, Concord, and of course Yorktown, where victory was declared. The Battle of Lexington was decisive in shaping our nation's independence, and its streamer is proudly displayed as a reminder of this turning point. For these actions, the Army was awarded 16 battle streamers. The new nation expanded rapidly, but was still in the shadow of England. On the high seas, our shipping was attacked, and sailors were pressed into duty with the British Navy. In 1812, war came again, the gallant defense of Fort McHenry, where, by dawn's early light, Francis Scott Key wrote the poem that became the words to our national anthem. victories under General Winfield Scott at Chippewa and General Andrew Stonewall Jackson at the cotton bales of New Orleans proved that America's Army could protect the nation from foreign powers. For our exploits during the War of 1812, the Army received 6 battle streamers. The nation expanded westward, and the Army played a key role. Actions at the Alamo plunged us into war with Mexico. General Winfield Scott's flawlessly executed Mexican campaign reflected his genius in organizing and planning, as well as the Army's indomitable spirit. During this era, covering the Mexican War, the Army received 10 battle streamers. The nation became again unsettled, finally erupting in a terrible civil war, pitting brother against brother for 5 bloody years. The names of great battles reflect courage and tenacity on both sides. Antietam, Shiloh, the Wilderness Campaign, and of course Gettysburg. Abraham Lincoln said at that battle, "We hope that these dead shall not have died in vain, and that this nation of people, of the people, by the people, and for the people, shall not perish from the earth." The nation was preserved after General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse in 1865. This action restored solidarity and strengthened the nation from the memory of those who died. For these years of fighting throughout the Civil War, our Army received 25 battle streamers. The nation again moved west across the land, pursuing Apache and Ute Indian tribes, clashing and engaging with them across the territories. The 7th Cavalry under General George Custer suffered a major defeat, leaving an unforgettable mark at Little Bighorn. While these engagements raged on, the Army fought bravely, and over the next several decades, General Custer and his men became iconic legends. For the brave actions during the Indian Wars, the Army received 14 battle streamers. Remember the Maine was the rallying cry in 1898 following the sunken battleship Maine. Theodore Roosevelt led Rough Riders in the charge up San Juan Hill in Cuba, and the United States began to emerge as a world power, fighting on 2 fronts over 10,000 miles apart. In Puerto Rico, the Philippines, and then in China in 1900, the Army was called upon to preserve our nation's interests. It was in China that Private Calvin P. Titus, a bugler with the 14th Regiment, scaled the wall of the city, which led to the victory in Peking, and for which he was awarded the Medal of Honor. For these actions in support of the war in Spain, the China Relief, and the Philippine insurrection, the Army received 17 battle streamers. Closer to home in the Southwest, the border between the United States and Mexico became an arena for Pancho Villa and his bandit raids. General Black Jack Pershing led the 10th Cavalry, the Buffalo Soldiers. They made the area safer for settlers and brought Pancho Villa to justice. For the actions on the border and in Mexico, the Army received 1 battle streamer. The war in Europe flared in 1914, and America was drawn in. In 1917, sending our doughboys to fight the war to end all wars. In 1918, it was over there. On the 11th hour, on the 11th day of the 11th month, the guns across Europe fell silent for more than 4 years of bitter fighting. The 42 American divisions returned home, having fought trench warfare at places like Verdun, Alsace-Lorraine, Lamar, and Osny-Marne. For the heroic efforts of freedom throughout the battles of World War I, the Army received 13 battle streamers. On December 7th, 1941, a date that will live in infamy, America found itself once again plunged into global war with battles in the Pacific, Europe, Africa, and Russia. Great generals' names became household words: Bradley, Patton, MacArthur, Eisenhower. Little-known places in far-flung corners of the earth took a terrible toll in human life as the United States Army fought to free the world from dictators of the Third Reich. Remembering the battles of Bataan, Corregidor, North Abernathy, Po Valley, Mount Belvedere, Normandy, Bastogne, and Guadalcanal in the Philippines. For these heroic actions of World War II, the Army received 38 battle streamers. After 1945, the United States began dismantling the armed forces, little knowing that in only 5 years we would again be drawn into conflict, this time in Korea. In 1950, the North Korean Army stormed south across the 38th parallel, and the American soldier rallied under the United Nations with traditional skill, bravery, and unmatched courage with Task Force Smith. As the nation prepared, emerging technology was fielded for the first time, including helicopters and mobile Army surgical hospitals. Many lives were saved with innovations, but at the battles at Chip Yun Lee, the 1st of the 23rd, the Tomahawks fought to nearly their last man. The Chosin Reservoir, Incheon, Pusan, and Seoul will long be remembered. For the Korean conflict, the Army received 10 battle streamers. Only a few years later, our nation went around the world to help fight off those that would take away freedom, this time in a country virtually no one had heard of, Vietnam. Battles such as LZ X-Ray, Khe Sanh, the Tet Offensive, and countless others burned indelible memories into this nation. For 11 years, the American soldier boldly pressed on in this jungle battleground, continually learning great and valuable leadership lessons to be passed on to the next generation soldier. These American soldiers fought bravely, having served their country admirably and keeping the finest traditions of military service. For these years of fighting during the Vietnam War, the Army received 17 battle streamers. Four times in less than 30 years, the United States Army was ordered into action. In 1965, the Army moved into the Dominican Republic to remove a communist regime. In 1983, we went into Grenada to protect democracy and American medical students. In 1989, forces were dispatched to defend the Panama Canal, restore democracy, and apprehend Manuel Noriega. In 1992, the Army began humanitarian operations in Somalia, but fierce fighting broke out in early 1993, and America woke to the news that dozens of our soldiers were killed or wounded in action. For these armed forces expeditions, the Army received 4 battle streamers. In August 1990, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, intent on expanding Iraq's control of the Persian Gulf. America responded by forming a coalition of some 30 countries allied to fight this terrorist leader. Desert Shield became Desert Storm when America smashed through the line in the sand. 100 hours later, a ceasefire was called and forces halted their advancements to Baghdad, having achieved the objective of ousting Iraqi forces from Kuwait. For this display of unified land operations in lightning-swift Southwest Asia campaign, the Army received 3 battle streamers. After the Cold War ended and Eastern Europe was released from the grip of communism, ethnic conflicts erupted throughout the Balkans, in Serbia, Bosnia, and Kosovo. After a partially effective air campaign, the Army was sent forward to make the country safe and protect fledgling democracies within the region. We remain there today, ready to answer the call, and for these actions, the Army received 2 battle streamers. At 0846 on September 11, 2001, peace was shattered and our freedom was challenged by a brutal terrorist attack on American soil. That was the first of 2 attacks at the World Trade Center, using passenger planes as weapons of mass destruction. Another attack was made at the Pentagon, and Flight 93 was downed in the fields of Pennsylvania. This day, which will be forever known as 9/11, didn't bring America to its knees, as Al-Qaeda had intended, but stiffened our resolve to take the fight against terrorism to its source. A coalition of nations was formed once again under the leadership of the United States to root out terrorism and bring stable democratic governments to the countries of Afghanistan and Iraq. For efforts since 9/11 in the global war on terrorism, the Army has received 13 battle streamers. Our Army has earned many honors in its 242 years of service. However, we must never forget it was the men and women of our nation who sacrificed their lives for our freedoms. Even today, soldiers are deployed around the world, protecting the freedoms that we hold dear. They are not alone. Our soldiers will always place the mission first. They will never accept defeat. They will never quit, and they will never leave a fallen comrade. Today, as we have recalled the legacy of our Army and the symbolic placement of all 189 battle streamers, we teach a new generation of the rich heritage and the freedoms they inherit. The flag of the United States Army, now donning its streamers once again, will be placed in the position of honor beside the United States colors, representing 242 years of steadfast service to the nation it proudly and selflessly protects. Joining Colonel Heimel, Command Sergeant Major Luciano, and Command Master Chief Willis for the cutting of the Army birthday cake, representing our oldest soldier present is Lieutenant Colonel John O'Grady, and representing our youngest soldier present is Private Second Class Cody Nayland.
Hey, before we cut the cake, I need you all to give a round of applause to the Staff Sergeant that was holding the Army colors. You cannot begin to appreciate You can't begin to appreciate how heavy and top-heavy that set of colors is as those streamers go on it unless you've held it yourself. That was an incredible bicep workout you just got today.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join us in the singing of the Army song, the retiring of the colors, and the departure of the official party. Sing a song, we're the army of the free. Count the brave, count the true, who have fought to victory. We're the army and proud of our name. We're the army and proudly proclaim. First to fight for the right and to build the nation's right. When the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won. When the army goes rolling along. And it's high, high, hey, the army's on its way. Count off the king's knowledge strong. Wherever we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along.
Shoulder, arms. Ready, cut. Cut his turn, march.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. Please join our guest speaker and the command team for cake and refreshments in honor of the 242nd Army birthday. Thank you very much and have a great Army Day.